All that coming up shortly. First, some breaking news coming in right this minute, all the way from the United States. The Secret Service Director, Kimberly Cheatle, has resigned. Yesterday, remember, she faced bipartisan condemnation when she appeared before the House of Representatives Oversight Committee, facing a flurry of questions. She declined to answer questions from rather frustrated lawmakers about the security plan for the rally. Also, how law enforcement responded to the suspicious behavior of the gunman. Now, several Republican and Democratic lawmakers yesterday called on her to resign, remember. So this coming at a very interesting time. She told the Oversight Committee members that she expects the Secret Service's internal investigation into the assassination attempt to be done in 60 days. And that timeline was swiftly criticized by the lawmakers, who called it unacceptable. Now, the agency came under harsh scrutiny for its failure to stop a would-be assassin from injuring former President Donald Trump during a campaign rally on the 13th of July. And the Secret Service, which, remember, is responsible for the protection of current and former U.S. president, faces a crisis after the gunman was able to fire on Donald Trump from a roof overlooking the outdoor rally in Pennsylvania. Let's go straight across now to our correspondent, Susan Tehrani, who has been tracking the very latest as far as these developments are concerned. A number of questions that come to the forefront at this point, Susan, given how things have panned out. But first of all, I want you to outline for our viewers what really led to this resignation.
Yeah, Molly, not only those lawmakers on Capitol Hill, but the nation watched for hours as Kimberly Cheatle was berated by that committee from members of both sides of the aisle, accusing her of simply not doing her job in protecting former President Donald Trump at that rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. One of the most telling aspects that something like this would have happened was, first of all, the bipartisan nature of the condemnation against Cheatle. Not so much the Secret Service personnel on the ground, but the leadership of the Secret Service. And another telling aspect was the way she was using bureaucratic language and evading questions that were on everyone's mind. They were the most simple, basic questions to the, more complex questions. Lawmakers wanted to take a deep dive into what really happened, and she would not provide answers. It almost seems like either she was overwhelmed or she was being cheeky. Regardless, the answers that they wanted, lawmakers didn't get. This was exasperated by a few lawmakers from the House going to Butler, Pennsylvania. And we saw video footage of that where they were standing on the roof that the would-be assassin Thomas Crook took his aim against the former president. And, they were showing that the comments that Cheatle made about a sloped roof and whatnot and why personnel weren't up there were just not accurate. It really wasn't that big of a slope. So a series of events, and then there were inaccuracies and redundancies, not only in how she conducted interviews prior to this hearing, but during the hearing as well. And, to prevent further investigation, at least into herself, it was the best choice for her to resign. It was hard to imagine that there was any turning back for her.
Right. Susan, as we continue to dissect what's really going on and what all led to her resignation, speaking of what she has said, let's just play out for our viewers the statements that were made by her when she appeared yesterday before a House committee to actually respond to questions on that attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. Listen in to those bites.
The Secret Service's solemn mission is to protect our nation's leaders. On July 13th, we failed. As a director of the United States Secret Service, I take full responsibility for any security lapse of our agency. We are fully cooperating with ongoing investigations. We must learn what happened, and I will move heaven and earth to ensure that an incident like July 13th does not happen again.
Right. Let's just go back across to Susan, who has been tracking those developments. She, of course, told those members that she expects the Secret Service's internal investigation into the assassination attempt to be done in 60 days. But, Susan, that statement also that she made about moving heaven and earth, there's so much at play here. Also, the speculation that has continued ever since this case came to light. But let's just talk about whether or not there was politics at play here. And when it comes to the optics as far as her statement is concerned, and which factors really resulted in this swift decision coming in?
Yeah, first of all, Molly, as you know, it is very unlikely on Capitol Hill to get bipartisan support for anything. And the fact that at the end of the day and at the end of that hearing, Jamie Raskin and James Comer, who were overseeing this committee, unanimously came out with a letter calling for her resignation on the one hand, President Biden's inability to fire her on the other. And let's not, forget that this is an election year. We're a little bit over 100 days into the election. The Democrats really had to stand very closely to the Republicans on this issue because there was already widespread criticism that every time a Biden official sits in front of these committees, they get grilled, they don't have answers, but nothing ultimately happens to them. So Kimberly Cheatle had no way out, either being fired or resigning. And again, it comes at a time not only where the Democrats are looking at this as an election probability and capability, but also at a time when you look at the polls, Americans are increasingly distrustful in the leadership of institutions. We always have heard praise, for example, on the Secret Service regarding men on the ground and the work they do. But when it came to the leadership like the Secret Service, even the FBI, the Homeland Security, these are the places where, whether truth or not, many Americans believe that they're just not being told the truth and the whole story.
All right, we're leaving it there for the moment. Susan, thanks very much for joining us with those updates and helping us dissect what all is at play here. Very interesting developments coming in. Yes, go ahead.
Molly, just before you go, I did want to give you a breaking news that we will hear from President Biden from the Oval Office at 8 p.m. tomorrow night. It will be the first time that the nation and the world will be seeing him after he declared his resignation on the platform X. So we'll be bringing you all of the latest regarding that breaking news as well.
Interesting. So all eyes on that. Of course, just 24 hours ago, we heard Kamala Harris last night on the show itself speaking out for the first time after she was endorsed by Biden and, of course, talking about his accomplishments and his legacy. We're leaving it there. Thanks very much, Susan. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.